but Bret punches him, leaving Doink to hit his little dinks on top of the turnbuckle. See what I did there?
His little dinks.
His little dinks.
Depends who's holding the whip.
Me.
Yeah.
Would you bend?
Would you bend?
Would you bend for good?
Sorry, carry on.
Can you think of a worst wrestler in WWE history who has been pay-per-view level? Have you seen my giant Gonzales?
Hello and a very warm welcome back to the Gimme All Your Wrestling podcast. My name is Dom.
And I am Ant.
Are you?
I am.
Are you sure?
Today I am Ant.
You're Anthony Nayland.
I'm Anthony Nailon and you are Dominic Smith. Do you have a second name?
I have three middle names.
Oh dear.
No, two middle names.
Ivan Volkov.
Volkov. Ivana Trumpalot. No,
Ivana Trumpalot. Dom Ivana Trumpalot Smith.
No, Peter Roy.
Oh really? Jeez, wow, that's boring.
Yours?
Mine, just James. Just James.
No, I didn't know that, didn't I?
I don't know, man.
How long
I don't
we
know.
each other for?
Too long. What are we looking at today, Dom?
Let's just recount, just for the three viewers at home. 15 years?
It's about 15 years. Yeah, about 15. Yeah, 15 years.
2002? 4?
A while.
4.
A while.
I feel like this is important.
It is. Summerslam 93 today, Dom.
That's important.
That's important. Did you enjoy the pay-per-view? I was looking forward to it after watching King of the Ring, but it doesn't
falls a bit flat.
Falls a bit flat because of that, and there's also one really weird thing in it.
Some really weird matches that don't really belong on the card. You think, how have these got to SummerSlam 1993 status?
Yes.
You know, guys like Ludwig Borga. And Marty Jannetty.
Yeah.
And I love Marty Jannetty. Actually, let's just. I
love Marty Jannetty. Great stuff.
Marty Jannetty probably wants to watch the Gimme All Your Wrestling podcast. Marty Jannetty is good enough to watch the Gimme All Your Wrestling.
He is good enough.
If you are watching Marty Jannetty, I am a fan of yours. I think you should have been bigger than Shawn Michaels. I think that back in the day, you were the best rocker.
He was.
Much more talented than the old HBK, who probably isn't watching the Gimme All Your Wrestling podcast.
Probably not.
So if you are Marty Jannetty,
cheers.
I'm a fan. Cheers.
August the 30th, the
Indeed.
Palace of Auburn in Auburn Hills,
Indeed.
Michigan.
Scott Steiner, it's the Steiner brothers' hometown.
Steiner brothers' hometown, which plays into the event, of course. August 30th, though, quite late for SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's still summer though. I found out this the other year. September's still classed as summer.
Is it really?
Early September.
Mental. Between this event and the last pay-per-view
Unless someone
event,
was like pulling my chain.
Possibly.
It was first. No. I think it's true. We once released an issue of Soundsphere, soundspheremag.com. We once released an issue of a summer issue of Soundsphere, but we released it in early September.
Ah, right.
And I was corrected because I was like, we can't release it in September. And we're like, no, you can.
Cool. Good to know.
I could be wrong.
Between this and the last pay-per-view that we covered, a massive change has happened, and that is with Lex Luger. Also, no longer...
Hey, so ain't no Hogan.
No Hogan.
Ain't no Hogan at this
party.
Ain't
no Hogan. Ain't no Macho at this party. This is the first pay-per-view.
At this party. Ain't no Hogan. Hogan up here.
Are you excited about that?
Yeah, really happy about it.
Well, we're moving into a new generation.
Lex
Luger.
I'm not so happy about Lex
No
Luger.
Macho, that's sad.
I'm not so happy.
This was the first pay-per-view to not have either of the Mega Powers at it. In the first that's 30 pay-per-views over 1985 to 1993.
Face the facts.
Face the facts. So yeah, Lex Luger's now face, and in the last 2 months, he's actually been touring the US. He hasn't been fighting. I think he's had one semi-match, which was the match that was on the battleship where he slammed Yokozuna. Everything else has been him going on this USA tour in his Lex Express. So they've bought a bus. It's actually a picture on our thumbnail. They've bought a bus, the WWF, and done it out with stars and stripes and wrote Lex Express on it. It's the weirdest thing. And that's the first image that we're greeted with when we get into the pay-per-view. Commentators for this pay-per-view are Vince McMahon and Bobby Heenan. So straight into the first match, shall we?
Yep, let's do it.
Ramon versus Ted DiBiase. Two great workers here. Yeah, so are they going to have a good match?
It's doing their thing.
What are you doing? Oh, are you calling for the Razor's Edge? Yeah, okay.
Did you like that?
Yeah, sort of. It was sweet. Except he nearly punched me twice.
Yeah. Pretty short and to the point. Old DiBiase gets his head rammed into the post. And,
yeah, well, this match comes about after Razor Ramon ate the pin to the 1, 2, 3 Kid on Raw. Mm-hmm. So Money Inc. have been constantly teasing Razor, and Ted DiBiase in particular has offered him a job as a servant because that's how low he is now. Razor and the 1, 2, 3 Kid fought the Money Inc. in a number of tag matches leading to this pay-per-view to settle it all once and for all. So Razor Ramon, another guy that's had a massive sort of face turn here, going from, and he was that charismatic. He made a good face, didn't he?
And it was good. Yes, he was very good. Yeah, it was quite sad really, because one of my lowest moments in wrestling in my early days was when the 1, 2, 3 Kid turned heel and joined the $1 Million Corporation at the expense of Razor Ramon. Spoiler alert.
There we go.
That was sad because I was a huge fan of the 1, 2, 3 Kid.
I know you was, yeah. And you didn't like heels back then.
I did.
Do you like heels now, Don?
Not really. I fight for the good guys.
Do you like
Rusev?
I like
the anti-hero. I like the anti-heroes.
Rusev's a heel. Kevin Owens a heel. You like Kevin Owens?
Quite like Kevin Owens.
You like a lot of heels, don't you, really?
Not really.
You do.
Go on then, Kevin Owens.
Roman Reigns.
Rusev isn't a heel.
Rusev's a heel. Rusev just don't know what to do with Rusev.
Roman Reigns is not a heel.
Rusev Reigns is a heel.
Rusev Reigns.
Can you imagine if they had a baby?
Rusev
Spins! Cool.
Superman Masca!
So DiBiase starts off the match attacking Ramon as he takes off his bling, coming down with all the bling now. He looked great, Razor. He really looked good at this point in his career, didn't he?
Indeed.
He was great in the NWO, but I really like this Razor. I think he's at the top of his game.
Everybody was better here. Everybody was better at this time when Kevin Nash, arguably, definitely Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, definitely Sean Waltman, X-Pac, 1, 2, 3 Kid. We're all better here than they were in WCW.
I don't know. There was elements of that.
Maybe Kevin Nash.
Well, I think him and Scott Hall were both great when they first went in, but it ran its course quickly, didn't it? Well, maybe not quickly. Maybe it was over a long period of time, but because I was only catching brief moments of it then. Yeah, it seemed to happen very quickly. Anyway. And then went on for way too long.
Yes, it did.
So DiBiase takes the lead for a bit. The great thing about DiBiase is he's been built so well to be a believable heel by this point.
Yep.
And you always see him as a threat because they've built in that he can take them wins at the big matches. He can beat the guys at the pay-per-views. And that's great. That means that when Razor gets into giving the offense, the crowd are really behind it, you know?
Yeah.
So, and that's what's great about this dynamic of DiBiase and Razor. DiBiase calls for the $1 Million Dream, but Razor gets away from it. There's a bit of a sloppy moment in the match where DiBiase throws Razor's head into the turnbuckle, which he awkwardly falls out of the ring to get into the next spot. This is so that the ref, who is counting Razor, allows DiBiase to undo the turnbuckle pad.
Yeah.
But it was a bit sloppy on Razor's part, I think, to sort of... It was like he'd forgot that he was supposed to go out the ring and then went, oh yeah, okay, and fell out backwards. So, yeah, when Razor gets into the ring, he reverses the Irish whip that DiBiase is going to throw him into the exposed turnbuckle. And, sends his head into it, and then he gets the Razor's Edge.
Razor's Edge for the pin.
Nice little match to start off with. DiBiase, the veteran, putting over the new face Razor. And who better to do that with than DiBiase, who was believable and also... could sell.
Yeah, and he was finishing up after this as well, wasn't he?
He was, man. This is DiBiase's last pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
That's sad,
as a full-time wrestler.
DiBiase was, because he come back a managerial role.
One of the greatest managers in history.
I think for a second, we should look back at how incredible DiBiase has been. He's both really wowed us in these pay-per-views.
Yeah.
I had an appreciation for him.
One of those people where you just could never see him as a face.
No.
He was the quintessential. He was the absolute heel.
Yes.
There are very few people
who can do absolute
who could
heel.
do that.
No.
Who could do absolute heel. You could never put them in another role.
No.
IRS was another one. you just give them a character that you can't turn it round. Unless you switch the gimmick, and you couldn't switch that gimmick. There was
great,
only 1 million.
and he played it so well, and it's so iconic.
But I can't think. I mean, well, there is one. There's many, but I can't think of one instantly that could do heel like anybody. That just you would never like, even if you wanted to.
Well, you can look at a lot of the anti-American heels, I think, like your Iron Sheik and your Volkov.
I think Volkov had a turn as a face.
Volkov had a turn as a face, he did.
Sheik did for a brief period.
Did he?
Briefly.
Really? Wow. So, yeah, last pay-per-view match for DiBiase. Also, the last pay-per-view showing for Mean Gene Okerlund.
Indeed.
His contract went out and they decided not to renew it. Well, they didn't necessarily not renew it, and then he showed up on WCW, and it was just like, well, there he's gone.
Everybody's doing that.
Yeah,
they came up with big money promises. I think I would have probably gone to WCW if someone offered me more money.
Absolutely.
But then I would have regretted that, wouldn't I?
Well, not when you come back. Who came back to the WWE for a big run?
Pretty much
Hogan.
To
the sort of same level.
Yeah, X-Pac. He was probably more
elevated.
Yes,
X-Pac squad, yeah.
He had his own faction for a very brief period of time, the X Factor.
Yeah, mind you, he had a lot of heat as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, he did, yeah. They call that X-Pac heat.
X-Pac heat, yeah.
I don't know where that came from.
No.
I want to find
Who else went to WCW but had a massive
look at Eddie Guerrero came...
But he never was in the WWF.
He wasn't before, he wasn't before.
He was wrestling for a long time, actually.
I'm going to find out the definition of X-Pac heat.
So the next match is the Steiner brothers versus the Heavenly Bodies, which is Jimmy Del Rey, Tom Pritchard, with another new face of Jim Cornette. Classic Cornette, actually, and I think he does great in this match, and I really quite like Cornette. I thought as a manager he could take a hell of a bump. So, yeah, I'm going to go into the X-Pac heat.
Roman Reigns has X-Pac heat.
Roman Reigns does have X-Pac heat.
This is when the audience boos and insults wrestling, not because they hate the character, but because they hate the performer.
There we go.
Because it can be because they push too hard, they have political power behind the scenes, or because they're terrible performers. I would like to think that X-Pac was a great performer. Someone with X-Pac heat is someone fans don't want to see at all.
Are you looking this up in Urban Dictionary?
This is tvtropes.org.
Very good.
Yes.
Very good.
I'm going to read more about X-Pac heat to myself. I'm going
to tell our audience a little bit about Tom Pritchard, because this is the Heavenly Bodies' first pay-per-view debut. So Tom Pritchard was originally one of the Heavenly Bodies with a Stan Lane, and they traded titles quite a lot with the Rock and Roll Express in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Smoky Mountain Wrestling was, of course, Jim Cornette's promotion, which he started for a brief time. They had a lot of hardcore matches, actually. Like, it's hard to watch WWF at this time and imagine these hardcore matches happening, but there was a lot of hardcore matches happening outside there. And if you look at the talent that was coming in, like the Bushwhackers, who were notorious in the scene for like the Sheepheaders, like who were really hardcore wrestlers. This included a barbed wire cage match. Yeah. A very early version of the cage match. I was watching an interview with Tom Pritchard, and he was saying, like, as a wrestler, I don't really want to put myself into a barbed wire cage match. He was talking a bit about like CZW and stuff like that, and how he understands that there's people that want to see that, but it's not necessarily something you don't need it to tell a good story. Do you think hardcore should come back into the WWE?
I mean, it doesn't really have a place in modern WWE. I think there should be the odd hardcore match.
Yes.
I love the title, the scrappy, stuck together title. Yeah. That was brilliant. But there's too many titles as it is now. And
you get different matches.
It was a brilliant way to elevate mid-card, to give mid-carders, the headbangers had a chance. Each had a run with the hardcore title. I think, I can't remember this very specific female performer, but she won a hardcore title. Molly Holly.
Molly Holly.
Hardcore title. I quite like that because it gives everyone on the roster. If you're Fandango, you believe you could be hardcore champion.
Yeah.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week when Hardcore Holly had it.
Well, how about if it, instead of it being like the hardcore championship, what if it was like the extreme championship and it was more about not necessarily hardcore, because hardcore is associated with that sort of blood, with barbed wire, with, you know, and the sort of extremes that they took it to the Attitude Era. What if there was a championship that was more about the extreme rules type matches, so we get more objects being used and stuff like that without it being seen as hardcore? I think that'd be a good concept. Let us know what you think down below. That'd be cool to hear. He had so this is Tom Pritchard going back in. He had a run with Chris Candido as the Body Donners, which would win the tag team championships. Of course, the manager was Sonny.
So you had Skip. What was the aliases? So you had Skip and
I can't remember.
Skip was Chris
Candido. Yeah.
I'm going to find that out.
Very good.
That's bothering me.
After this, he had a brief run as Dr. X, who was a masked jobber, and then he went to be booked as a trainer by WWE from 97.
Zip.
Skip and Zip from the Body Donners.
Yeah,
very good.
Kayfabe cousin, yes.
Very good. He'd also work a lot when he was a trainer with Steve Austin. He helped a lot of people, a lot of big stars in the Attitude Era. And Steve speaks very highly of him in his book. I was reading like a few segments from his book, and he speaks really highly of him. This was the time that he was stunning Steve Austin, but he also trained like The Rock and Kurt Angle and all these sort of major stars. Kurt Angle's an interesting one because obviously he sort of came from the background of grapple wrestling into sort of sports entertainment. So yeah, great, really, you know, had a real impact on the WWF. Memorably, he was also in the match in 1999 with Jeff Jarrett to take on Chyna and Deborah. Obviously Deborah really very rarely got into the ring. Pritchard had caused a loss in this match by hitting Chyna with a guitar and her falling onto Jeff Jarrett, and that led to the match at No Mercy. It was quite cool. Next up, we've got Jimmy Del Rey. Jimmy Del Rey. Both of these guys were great wrestlers, man. Really good. Used to call himself Jimmy Backlund in the early years.
Are you sure that's not Buckland?
It's Buckland. Why can't I get that name right, man?
Jimmy Buckland?
It's Jimmy Buckland.
Right, okay, not Backlund.
Yeah. No, not Backlund.
Two different things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why was he called Jimmy Buckland? Or Backlund? Backlund.
Was he because he was not related in any way to
he was not related in any way,
Bob
but
Backlund.
In the WWF, Bob Backlund had the heavyweight championship belt. So by calling himself that, he was hoping to get a little bit of that rub. So yeah, and he looked really similar to Bob Backlund when he was wrestling back then. So yeah, I know he looks nothing like him now with his sort of weird facial hair, and he's very ginger, isn't he? He joined Pritchard in the Heavenly Bodies after Stan Lee had lost a Loser Leaves Town match. Stan Lane, sorry.
I was going to say
not Stan Lee, who wrote Marvel Comics. But that'd be interesting.
That guy has done everything.
Wow. I want a gimmick. I want to be the Hulk. Cool. He used to call himself the Gigolo. Yeah, well, that was what it was. He clearly doesn't look like a gigolo.
Weekend, yeah?
Yeah, man. But it is. It's like me calling myself a gigolo in wrestling. I look nothing like a gigolo, and neither did.
We are in Hull.
Jimmy Del Rey.
You probably look better than some gigolos in Hull, to be fair, don't you?
The Heavenly Bodies,
especially
with my facial fluff. You're just jealous of my facial fluff. Man.
It's so weird. It comes up here. It's really weird. You can do that. It's like a goat.
Thanks to the greatest of all time. The Heavenly Bodies would join ECW in December 95, and Jimmy would appear in WCW as Jimmy Graffiti in 96 until he was forced to retire in 97 due to a knee injury. Oh. He'd work as a trainer for years in Florida before...
That sounded really bad. I am very sorry. I didn't mean to go, as in like, I'm not like... sarcastic.
He was a really talented dude, man. He'd work as a trainer for years in Florida before buying a hardwood flooring company, which he owned until his death in 2014. Wow. Jim Cornette. What are your opinions on Jim Cornette before I sort of read off some information? I'm quite interested. He is a genius, man.
I don't know whether I got on with him too well, but genius.
He is, yeah.
Good man for the business.
Very good, very good. He loved wrestling as a kid and began working in wrestling at 14 in any capacity he could. So he took on jobs as a photographer, as sort of backstage help, anything that he could do. And that's where he'd start working for Continental Wrestling Association, whose promoter was Christine Jarrett. That's the mother of Jeff Jarrett.
Indeed.
He made his debut as a manager, managing Sherry Martel.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Which, I mean, she was an iconic manager in herself later on in her career, you know. Mm-hmm. He would head to Mid-South Wrestling, where he'd manage Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express. And he really helped to make them teams interesting. And he had a lot of... and it's gone.
Excuse me. Still ill.
Yeah, he had a lot of influence within them, and I think he made them matches really interesting and exciting. And the thing with Cornette is that much like Heenan, like previously, he could really take a bump. And I think a lot of managers hated him for that, because in the same way that they hated Heenan when he was doing it, because they thought they were going too far. But he'd invest himself into the match, but he made the matches more exciting.
The
so
whole
much
tennis
more
racket
energy.
thing was kind of unbelievable. No, I mean, back in the day,
There's a weird story about that.
as a guy watching it, you're like, oh man, a tennis racket to the back, but it wasn't even out; it was in the case.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, that's probably at best it's a.
Yeah, but it's probably just something that he found in the back and was like, "Oh, this will work." You know, the manager needs like that. Like Fuji's got his salt, Jimmy's got his microphone, Paul Heyman had his phone.
What would yours be?
What would my object be? A "Give me a whole year" mug.
Really, that's interesting. Mine would be the "Give me a whole year" T-shirt,
which you can find where, Dom?
You can find that, Anthony, on Redbubble. You can also support us on Patreon.
That was awesome. What a segue, dude! What a segue.
And we can sell some merch to you wonderful people.
I like the idea. What about a manager with a whip? Is that too Indiana Jones?
Depends who it is.
Sorry?
Depends who's holding the whip.
Me.
Yeah.
Who do you want to hold the whip?
Anybody but you.
But don't you think it'd be an interesting... You know, like Bianca Belair uses her hair in like an awesome way, like a manager with a whip. Yeah, maybe it's a bit much. A manager with a gun?
Respectfully, if Bianca Belair was holding a whip...
Or a hair.
Or a hair, in fact. And she was managing me, or I was indeed, because she is, of course, the superior performer in every way.
You couldn't manage anyone. You couldn't manage Bianca Belair.
You gonna manage? Hey?
Heavy machinery.
Yeah. Yeah, you got the same flipping ideology.
Thanks, dear. Same faces.
Except without the gains, without the gains, just the steak and squats or something. It's some meat product and working out like some. Hang on, I'm going to find out. This is a fact-checking episode. Heavy machinery. Carry on.
So obviously, Jim Cornette had worked quite a lot as a commentator as well. He did so in WWF, but he also did so early on in his career. And then more recently, he's worked with TNA and Ring of Honor. Quite a lot. I think he pushed out Bruce Pritchard from one of them, didn't he? As manager or something. I can't really remember. In 2017, he's always had a long-running feud with Vince Russo. In 2017, Vince Russo filed a restraining order against Cornette due to the constant threats. He's got a podcast, Jim Cornette, and it's really interesting. Like I'm
still with you.
He's a dynamic guy. You know, he's an interesting guy to listen to. I think sometimes he does go a bit over the top, but you know, that's cool. That's fine. Like, I personally, I prefer listening to someone like Bruce Pritchard on his podcast because it seems more factual or more, you know, there'll be sort of pluses and minuses. If Jim Cornette gets on a tirade about something, then he loses you for a while, doesn't he?
If someone could tell me in the comments section within the next 3 days what Heavy Machinery's quote is, I'll send you a free T-shirt.
There we go. Nice one, dude.
I will get the one off Anthony's back. I will not wash it. and I'll send it to you. No, I'm kidding. I'll get you a fresh one. We got like loads. So, anyway, sorry. Yes.
Into the match. So the Steiners are tag team champions after defeating Money Inc. in a match the night after King of the Ring at Raw. Mm-hmm. So that's how Raw's sort of playing a part in these pay-per-views at the minute. There was an interview with the mother and sister of the Steiner brothers. The sister says
it's an odd one. Yeah.
She can't get a man because anytime they do come back, they see Rob and Scott and they're out of there.
Yeah, of course. And of course, there's a name.
Rob and Scott, not Rick and Scott.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Which I think Vince was fuming about, wasn't he? But it was one of them things. Rob is Rick's real name.
Yes, indeed.
Jim
Rob, it's something like Stein, something as well. It's like very. You can understand why it would. Yeah, let me
check.
Fact checking episode.
Jim Cornette introduces the tag team that is better late night than David Letterman. Then the Heavenly Bodies introduce Jim Cornette when they get in the ring. You could tell
Robert Rex Steiner.
Robert Rex Steiner, very good. You could tell that the WWF knew that they had something good, especially in Cornette, who would sort of have the mic at the start of the match, which was quite rare at these sort of pay-per-views. It's quite rare nowadays, isn't it, for a pay-per-view for them to have mics anyway. Steiner brothers get a great hometown welcome to the ring. Really positive atmosphere there. The Heavenly Bodies double team the Steiners early, getting boos from the crowd. The Steiners come in and perform several suplexes to the Bodies, getting massive cheers, and Cornette's fuming. Cornette sells everything so well.
They remind me of a better, more over and more exciting American Alpha.
Steiners?
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. That's a really good comparison. But they were far better.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, no, Jason Jordan and Chad Gable by themselves are really good. But there's no sort of dynamic.
I'm waiting to see Chad Gable, man. Like, there's nothing wrong with, I'm having a brain fart. Kurt Angle's son.
Jason Jordan.
There you go. There's nothing wrong with Jason Jordan, man.
No.
Super talented. But I think Chad Gable, they're both probably future champions, but I would give it to Chad Gable.
I don't know if they are.
Over the two of them, I'd give it to Chad Gable.
I think the WWF probably want to push Jason Jordan more. I don't think either of them are, actually. No, what I've noticed, I've been doing a lot recently, is not just us, any conversation we have, we're talking about this person's a future champion, this person's a future champion. And it doesn't matter. Like, you need people in a company that aren't a future champion. Yes. And that's fine to be in that. You know?
For debate and for intrigue, it's always nice to speculate.
Okay, and then I speculate that they will not touch the...
Right then, I bet Chad Gable is a champion of sorts.
No, that's rubbish, because he could quite happily be Intercontinental Champion. But you want about main title?
All right, world champion. I say in the next 10 years.
No, you won't be. Champion. That's fine. Cool.
What are we betting on it?
I don't know. Probably doing something silly on the podcast. Okay. Please let us know what you'd like me or Dom to do, or Dom when he loses a bet. When Chad Gable isn't world champion. No, I just think that there's so many good guys on Raw right now, like Elias, right? You get him in the world title picture for Elimination Chamber, let's say, and people are going, "Oh, it'd be great. He needs a chance to be a champion," and actually, he don't need to be. He's good where he is. You know, you can have a solid mid card without having.
Well, then, does that rule apply to Bray Wyatt? Because he won the title.
Yes, that rule does apply to Bray Wyatt.
So he doesn't need the title.
No, because when he had the title, it was rubbish.
To some people.
It was right. You cannot say that his Randy Orton feud was great.
Well, that wasn't great. Yeah.
I mean, it was awful, and that's all that him having the title was.
But if he had another chance, I think he'd do really well.
He could do really well, but then I'd prefer it to go to Bray Wyatt than to Chad Gable. And you can't have everyone be a number one guy in the company. Sometimes you need people to build upon. A bit like I was saying to you, I think No Way Jose... Sorry, we've gone well off track. I think No Way Jose has more potential longer term in the WWE than someone like Elias, because I think Elias's thing can get really boring really quickly.
You saw Adam Rose, right?
Yeah, basically. No Way Jose, right?
Basically the same.
I don't want a heel turn. I don't want any storyline.
Basically
all he needs is someone at a house show for people to go, No Way Jose, and he gets beat.
They did that for Fandango. They did that for Adam Rose.
Exactly, but Adam Rose probably would have lasted longer if it wasn't for his own issues. Well, he was suffering with depression and stuff,
I know,
wasn't he?
but that wasn't the factor. The factor was he wasn't over enough with Vince. That was the main factor.
No, I think it was deeper than that. Anyway, back to old wrestling.
We'll fact check that.
So Scott Steiner is in the ring, and he was such a good wrestler at this point, Scott Steiner. Like, I'm not a massive fan of his later work, but at this point, he was so good and so refined in the ring as well. Refined, baby. Anytime Cornette's on the screen, he steals the spotlight, telling the camera to back off. There's a great little segment with Scott atomic dropping both of the heavenly bodies before one slides under his leg from an Irish whip, with the other face planting an Irish whip, with the other face planting Scott with a bulldog. Did I ever see what?
Did you ever see Roadkill from ECW?
No.
The Amish, he was like an Amish. That was his gimmick.
No.
Roadkill.
No.
I'll send you some clips of Roadkill.
What does that have to do with?
Well, you said Amish whip.
Oh, did I? Right, that's where you got it from. Cool. The Steiners work really well at creating the spots in the ring. Like, they did it at WrestleMania 9 with that awesome sort of power slam off the top rope. I can't stop talking about that enough because it was awesome.
You're a little bit obsessed. But
yeah, it was awesome, man. It was an awesome move. But again, this little section of the sort of ducking under the Irish whip, one going for the bulldog, a really well-crafted section, man.
Yeah.
Jimmy Del Rey does a running 360 off the apron straight into Scott before climbing the turnbuckle to deliver an axe handle to Scott. That looked really strong. Again, axe handles are one of them weird things that can look really crap, aren't they? And I think there was a lot of guys doing axe handles really badly at this time.
Macho Man did it really well.
He did.
Very few people could do that really well, and you very rarely, thank God, see those these days. Because
the issue with the axe handle wasn't the person necessarily delivering it; it was how the person reacted. Like, you've got to react like someone's jumped off a top rope and hit you. Yeah. You can't just undersell it. And so many people undersold it. Even with Macho Man, sometimes I thought it'd look really weak if the person wasn't selling it well.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, I don't think Ultimate Warrior was the best at selling those.
No, not at all, no. Cornette gets a cheeky hit to the head of Scott with his tennis racket. There's a great DDT that's reversed into a suplex by Scott, and the crowd go mental. Scott gets a tag and the crowd starts barking. Ooh, 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 ooh. Before slamming the heavenly bodies and a big bulldog off the top rope, which looked pretty impressive. Oh yeah,
his bulldogs were really good.
They were, man.
Yeah, he was great.
Rick gets one of his awesome power slams from an Irish whip, which after which Cornette distracts Rick and throws the tennis racket to Pritchard, and then after connecting with his back, Rick kicks out of the pin, which I was quite surprised at.
I mean, obviously the tennis racket's
just too much, man. Too much. Del Rey climbs a turnbuckle after to do a moonsault onto Rick, who is being held by Pritchard, but he gets out of the way, ending up with a heavenly bodies colliding. Again, another really nice spot. Two prone people, one upside down. Well, this was the heavenly bodies this time.
I mean, like, they were good.
For them to do it all together, like these guys will have been throwing about ideas, and it worked so well. It was great.
It was a great setup.
Frankensteiner from Scott gives them the pin, and they continue their current reign as tag team champions. Really underrated team, in my opinion, the Steiners. Really good match, man.
I think they're considered to be one of the best teams by a lot of people individually.
Are they in the Hall of Fame yet?
They are not, are they? No.
They won't be in the Hall of Fame yet. They could do it, because a lot of people talk about Demolition and stuff.
Them come back together, yeah.
I think it'd be good to see them eventually.
Yeah, I don't think they've been together for a long time, have they?
No.
Did they fall out in real life? IRL?
No, IRL or IRS. A great match. Steiners were so athletic. The heavenly bodies worked great with them. Really great storytelling in the ring, and adding Cornette in the match really kept things moving. Brilliant. Like, a short space of time. Probably could have done with a little bit more time. But with the time that they had, and this was the problem we had with the last pay-per-view when we were talking about Lex Luger and Tatanka. They had 15 minutes and they did nothing with it. These guys had 10 minutes, really worked their asses off and put on a good match. Match of the night, possibly. Next match, we have Shawn Michaels with Diesel versus Mr. Perfect. This has been billed as the greatest Intercontinental Champion match of all time. This is before the event. On paper, man.
Yeah, man.
I mean, that looks amazing.
Yeah,
the match.
The end was pretty tedious, but
yeah.
Diesel's. I mean, again, yeah, Diesel kind of... I've never been really high on Kevin Nash and his involvement with Michaels until they broke up, until they became...
Oh, I love it. I think
until they feuded, I wasn't a fan of it.
It's one of the things that I really like how much time they took over it. There was no rush with it. It just sort of played out. He was Shawn Michaels' bodyguard for all intents and purposes until he won the WWF Championship off Backlund. And that was what started the feud with Michaels, because Michaels thought he should have had it first, or it's storyline-wise. And that was great, man. I mean, that really works into a good dynamic of falling out with your tag team partner for that reason. Or not necessarily tag team partner, but, bodyguard.
Well, but partner, bodyguard,
Prior to this match, Perfect has interrupted an Intercontinental Championship match between Michaels and Jannetty, which occurred on Raw, leading to Jannetty getting the win. Michaels won it back a month later with some help from Diesel, his bodyguard. So that's when Jannetty had his brief Intercontinental Championship reign. We'll see him in a squash match in this. That's sad, isn't it, man? To go from Intercontinental into squash match.
We've seen it done before. We've seen it done since.
Yeah, this match was billed to be the greatest Intercontinental Championship match. They talk about it before they've even entered the ring. It was a big mistake because the match fell a bit flat.
Indeed.
An interview with Shawn Michaels and his bodyguard Diesel. Michaels sells this match as the deciding match of who is the greatest Intercontinental Championship of all time. Both of these have had Intercontinental Championship reigns. Both have been significant, aren't they?
Yeah.
Within the WWF. Shawn enters with his circular glasses on.
I love those. They were great.
Man, like Ozzy Osbourne
I'm
glasses.
get myself some pair of that.
Did you ever have any when you was a kid?
I had some recently, actually.
Dude, you don't wear them in past 2000.
I've worn some recently. I didn't wear them for long, but I had some.
Did you?
I had a pair.
Cool.
I thought it looked alright.
Do you remember the ones that you used to get that used to have like holograms on them?
No.
Oh, they used to sell them like all the time everywhere. Like
awesome.
They used to have. I think I had some with like skulls on it or something daft like that. No, it wasn't. It was really sad.
Did you wear them in Spiders?
Possibly. Probably. In the local nightclub. No, I wouldn't have.
The local nightclub. The
local nightlife in Hull.
We used to frequent, still do sometimes.
Ow. Yeah, man. I just thought it was a really good comment.
In the face with my glasses.
Oh, nice one. Maybe you need some circular glasses. We see a shot of Radio WWF, which has Gorilla Monsoon and Jim Ross on it. Yeah, Radio Wrestling.
Yeah, very strange.
I think it was more for the troops that were across at the time in the armed forces. However, I sort of wish that swap out Vince and bring either Gorilla or JR down, like that'd be great because the commentary was a bit lackluster.
Yes.
I was on Vince's part. Heenan's as good as he always is, funny, but I've never liked McMahon on commentary. A bit of a botched Irish whip where Perfect tries to take down Shawn, but it doesn't really work. Michael shows off his athletic ability, running up the turnbuckle and flipping over Perfect. He did this a lot, didn't he? Did he do that later on in his career? I don't remember it.
I think he did it a couple of times, but it was never like as quite as athletic. I think he was like he'd do the like the
he'd
Bret
hold
Hart,
on to him.
The Bret Hart type of thing, where you flip over. You've seen Bret Hart do it. In these past pay-per-views where usually he'd use the momentum of somebody else.
Yeah. Cool. Perfect throws Michaels over the top rope, but while squaring up to Diesel, receives a really nice super kick from Michaels. Nice to see the super kick developing at this point from Michaels.
He used it to finish in the King of the Ring too. I think it was coming together.
Michaels twists Perfect body around the ring whilst the crowd are trying to get behind Michaels. Then Perfect gets the upper hand and Michaels starts throwing himself around on Perfect's offense, from drop kicks to atomic drops, and it's great. Michaels selling. Michaels was so far above everyone else at this point. It was great, wasn't he? He was really good.
Yep.
Perfect gets the Perfectplex, but Diesel breaks up the pin. Perfect attacks both Diesel and Michaels, and for a brief time, he actually has the upper hand on both of them, which I thought made Perfect look really strong. Until Diesel throws him into the ring steps, and then Michaels slides into the ring for the count-out victory. Yeah, I mean, it was an okay match. I just thought...
I would have had him disqualified. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where he could have been disqualified or anything like that. It could have ended better, I think. I
don't think it's the ending. I think it's the match itself. I don't think it's got enough in it
compared to what it was built up.
No. During Michael's celebration, Perfect attacks him, but then he gets laid out by Diesel. So this is setting up a feud between Perfect and Diesel. After they leave, Perfect runs backstage to go and confront them. I feel like it could have been way better. But it was okay. A bit of a rubbish finish. But I think it was a good feud for Perfect to go into with Diesel.
Yeah, it would have elevated Diesel quite a lot as well.
And that's also the first time that the Intercontinental Championship didn't change hands.
Indeed,
at
and
SummerSlam.
it's also Mr. Perfect's last match for WWE pay-per-view until 2002.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. It's a fact.
I didn't know that. Sorry, I missed that one. Very good. Well, Mr. Perfect, man, what do you think of him as we've sort of gone back and rewatched his pay-per-views?
Mr. Perfect?
Yeah.
I still haven't... He doesn't excite me. He excites me about as much as... He's a brilliant performer. He's
a good technical wrestler.
He excites me about as much as Chad Gett. I believe he's like well, maybe more of a Jason Jordan. He excites me about as much as Jason Jordan. I recognise his talent. I recognise he's got legendary potential. And he is a legend. Yeah, he is a legend. He was probably one of the greatest Intercontinental Champions of all time. Definitely one of the greatest Intercontinental Champions of all time. But not really, didn't excite me as a performer.
I know what you mean.
But then that's my taste. My taste in performers is much more towards the underdogs or the darker characters.
All the characters, yeah.
So yeah.
I sort of feel the same. I think he lacked a little bit in character. Mm-hmm. Do you prefer Perfect's face or Perfect heel?
I prefer Perfect heel, but it was nice to see him go face.
Yeah, I agree.
He was face for a brief time in 2002 when he came back.
Right.
Because he came back at a Royal Rumble, which is how it led to him getting a contract again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was nice to see it done because he was one of those people that you could maybe try it with, but he was definitely more suited to the heel role.
I think the nice thing about his heel role at the pay-per-views we've been watching is he was working with Flair.
Yeah.
And I mean, Flair's a great heel.
Oh man, yeah.
So
again, he's the guy that you could. I mean, obviously, Flair is. You would say would have been but even not as much as DiBiase, because obviously Flair had his face runs over the years too, but more so in his later career, oddly enough. But certainly in his early career, he was so good at being bad, and it was only when it came to the end of his career, where people were cheering because they didn't want his career to end.
Yeah. I think he's one person I'd compare Perfect to is Charlotte. And the reason I say that is because
However, Charlotte's already surpassed Perfect in terms of achievement.
Yes, probably. Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, she has. But in terms of, I really like her heel work. I appreciate her when she's a face, but I don't get into it as much as when she's a heel. Yeah. I think her heel work is amazing. And it's the same with Perfect. I thought his heel work was much better.
She is a better heel, yes.
But I think as a face, he was just a bit bland, that's all.
Yeah.
So next match, we have IRS versus the 1-2-3 Kid. Dom, tell us a little bit of history about the 1-2-3 Kid.
Sean Waltman, 1-2-3 Kid's one of my favourite wrestlers growing up. Trained under Boris Malenko, of course, of the Malenko family. Began his career as the Lightning Kid, and he would actually go through in his early WWE days multiple names before that infamous Razor Ramon win, because they didn't know what to do with him. Vince looked at him and was like, "What the hell do we do with this?" I think that's the direct quote from Bruce Pritchard. There's also a very lovely story from Bruce Pritchard, who we've just been watching. We've just been watching a bit of Bruce on the old WWE Network. Very nice story, which I'll tell you at the end. So he wrestled for Pro Wrestling America, Global Wrestling Federation. He also won various light heavyweight champions, cruiserweight championships through his time as a wrestler. Obviously, most notably WWE. He is the one wrestler to hold the TNA X Division title, the WWE light heavyweight title, and the WCW cruiserweight title.
Oh wow!
So there you go. That's an interesting point there.
The only one.
He's the only person to hold all three. Yes. So an interesting story as well, which I just found out with my research, was he was working for WWA in 1992, and he took a suicide dive from a guy who was billed at the time as the Kamikaze Kid, a guy named Bill Wilcox, and he landed directly on Sean Waltman's head. Now, this gave him a blood clot, and he was actually advised by doctors not to wrestle again.
Ooh, and he had a long career after that.
He did have a long career, yeah. So basically, Waltman, like I say, he got his start with WWE pretty close to where we are now. He was brought in he was brought into Vince's office, and Vince was really unsure about what to do with him. and basically it kind of led to this whole thing with Razor Ramon that we're talking about now, where it was basically supposed to get the absolute tar beaten out of him by Razor, and then get the sneaky win. But they were just trying to. Nobody was sure what to do with him. Now the story, before I go on to talk about my own experiences and my own love for Sean Waltman as a performer, was from Bruce Pritchard, where it wasn't planned. The whole response to that Razor 1, 2, 3 Kid thing was not planned.
You can't plan something like that.
So it was. Bruce Pritchard refers to it as a beautiful moment in wrestling. After the Kid beat Razor, and Razor stood up in the ring holding up 2 fingers, like what the hell, and the crowd started chanting 1, 2, 3, and Vince said, "He's the 1, 2, 3 Kid, pal. God damn it, we've got something there." And for months previous to that, or for weeks previous to that rather, they had no idea what to do with him. They were convinced that he'd gone through the name on screen. He had a couple of matches. He was the Kamikaze Kid. Sometimes he was just the Kid, and nobody had any idea about what they were going to do. So it's really exciting to see that kind of, the one decision like that, one name change can really shape your whole career. Like I say, one of the greatest, in my opinion, one of the greatest kind of cruiserweight wrestlers, inspired a whole generation of high flyers for his maneuvers. In WWE, he had a really nice run with guys like Marty Jannetty as tag team champion. He had a really good, because this whole thing with Razor Ramon lasted for quite a while, and he was meant to be the kind of mentee of Razor Ramon. They went for the tag titles a couple of times and failed each time, and that led to the Kid's frustration with Razor Ramon and him turning heel on Razor and joining the $1 Million Corporation.
Because it was the Kid that turned Razor face in a way as well, wasn't it? Because he ended up helping.
And they were tied together very much through their entire careers, obviously. Yep. But the $1 Million Corporation team was Psycho Sid a bunch, never to great success in terms of belts, but it was a nice indication of what heel Sean Waltman could do. Really interesting. There's actually I think it's the only one that's ever existed, the crybaby match he had with Razor Ramon.
Oh really?
Yeah, Razor Ramon called him a crybaby, and there's there's talcum powder and everything in it. It's really interesting.
One in wrestling.
Yeah. So basically, he goes from WWF as it was then to WCW, feuds with guys like Ric Flair, wins the cruiserweight title, has some really stellar matches with Chris Jericho as well. Fantastic stuff there. Obviously goes on to TNA. Interestingly enough, although this is a quote from Vince Russo, so take it as you will, depending on your opinion. But basically, Vince Russo reported that in his WCW days, towards the end of his contract, he was fired by Eric Bischoff. Let go of his contract, and this was meant to be, in terms of Sean Waltman's viewpoint, it was a power play against Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, who had a great deal of booking weight
within the contract.
But according to Russo, it was down to Sean Waltman having a lot of drink and drug problems.
Possibly.
So if and it's quite sad when you think about how, these problems that are well documented to be happening to Sean Waltman to present day were they've been going on for a long time. He had a brief run in TNA, like I say, with the X Division title, but his problems again, same with Scott Hall, they came in together and they left to more or less at the same time because of their respective issues with drugs and alcohol. He currently works for WWE as part of the Legends contract. Obviously, just that sees him appear a couple of times a year usually. I do often wonder what it'd be like to have him, because he wrestles a lot on the independents, as the 1, 2, 3 Kid sometimes. Would you like to see him come back? Which I think is kind of weird. I don't think it's possible now.
Yeah,
it's a shame. It's a shame, really, because, like you say, you do see. There are flashes, and I would heartily advise, and this is considered by WWE officials, and there's numerous things on YouTube. Looking at the top 10 lists of matches on Raw, his match with Bret Hart, his one match for the WWF title, is considered one of the greatest matches, top 5 greatest matches of all time from WWE Raw. Right. And that's in, let me just check on that one, I think it's 1994, so just coming up. The third best match ever aired on Raw, apparently.
All right.
According to many people. So yeah, I mean, like I say, there's so much there with Sean Waltman, and I'd love to see him back. But it's too much time now has passed, but still one of the greatest performers in terms of inspiring. The 205 Live type. I would have loved to have seen. It was never going to happen, but in a dream world, Sean Waltman would be the general manager for 205 Live or something like that.
Yeah.
He's the guy.
Good. Something like that would be a good fit for him. Yeah,
he's the guy that made. Although the problem is the old X-Pac heat. And all this stuff, which is obviously his aim.
Yeah, I mean, you say he made
came back,
but he only made the sort of thing in WWF.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the history of the cruiserweights, like Jericho in WCW, Guerrero, and them sort of guys that were having them incredible cruiserweight matches.
He was one of them. He was in there.
You see, I'm not. My brother was a massive fan
that
of.
Was his name, by the way. He went through a couple of name changes. So he was 6 in WCW, which was the sum of 1, 2, 3, and also he was X-Pac when he came back as DJ.
Yeah, I was never a massive fan of X-Pac. I thought he was a bit annoying.
Well, that's the whole X-Pac thing. Isn't it?
Yeah. But I like him as 1, 2, 3 kid. That's cool.
Well, we should go.
But you're right. It was good in the ring. It was especially for a young kid. He was really good in the ring.
He was amazing.
Yeah. Very good. So we have an interview with the 1, 2, 3 kid who has butterflies with it being his first pay-per-view. They were certainly playing on the youthful look of Sean Waltman at this time. Everyone that he gets in the ring with is bigger than him, but he's going to try his best, which is what he says to Mean Gene, I think it is. IRS has a mic in the ring who tells them Detroit is a tax break city. And then puts that was a weird gimmick.
Yeah, IRS. Yeah, never kind of. I mean, weirdly enough, it still pops up occasionally. You think of all the gimmicks that wouldn't have longevity, but there it is. You should always pay your taxes, ladies.
You should always pay your taxes.
I actually really like his finisher, even though it's really basic. The write-off. The clothesline.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that in a WWE game.
Yeah, it's more like a. Yeah, it is.
Flying clothesline.
Yeah, it looks brutal in this match.
You see it all the time. People do it, but
people have done good big clotheslines in the past. So like JBL, haven't they? For like the clothesline from Hell and stuff like that. We have seen clothesline finishes
but
as
I
well.
really like that. Yeah, I really like the write-off.
Yeah, no, it'd be good. Yeah, Tax Break City. I always thought it was Detroit Rock City.
It is.
Or Detroit Motor City, as I think it's implied a few times in this pay-per-view. Heenan says that this is the first time the kid has been up after 8 o'clock. I thought it was quite funny because he looked like a child. Time for bedtime, Sean Waltman.
You got that a lot.
Yeah, I know. It's funny though. It's funny with Heenan as well.
Yeah, I think he actually got. He actually had a brief feud with Jerry the King Lawler because he kept taking the mick out of him.
Really, right? Yeah, but that sort of thing makes sense, especially with Lawler and Waltman at this time on 1, 2, 3 Kid. He was definitely an underdog for the kids, and the kids were well behind him in the crowd. I mean, that's the point, isn't it? Waltman uses speed for his advantage during the match. He always looks very focused in the ring, so you could believe that he was trying to get the win, I suppose. IRS throws a kid high into the air, only for him to come down and hit the mat hard. He got some real height on that, and that's partly IRS, but it's also Sean Waltman throwing himself up there. Great job, really good work. The kid tries to get the sneaky roll up on IRS after being thrown out the ring, but IRS kicks out. The crowd start chanting 1, 2, 3 during a headlock, which IRS did some great character work on getting frustrated with the audience at. Yeah. Really enjoyed that stuff. Waltman does a big moonsault onto IRS. Now, that probably should have ended the match.
His moonsaults. You didn't see him do it too often in his late career, but his moonsaults.
At this time, yeah, and I think this is why I really like the 1, 2, 3 Kid as opposed to his later stuff. His high flying stuff is great.
It'd be nice to see, because obviously X-Pac still gets on the games and stuff. It'd be nice to see like a legend. I don't think it'd ever happen, but like
1, 2, 3 Kid. 100%. No, I agree. Put him in the 205 Live division.
Yeah, if you know what I mean, that'd be wicked.
Yeah. Why wouldn't that happen?
There's enough people to be putting in these games, isn't there?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. So, I think the moonsault probably should have ended the match. I think that probably would have been a better end. As well. Yes, but it ended with IRS getting his monster clothesline to pin Waltman. Yeah, it was okay. It was an okay match. I think Waltman looked good. I think IRS was a bit
I don't think IRS needed it. But it was to do with this.
It wasn't to do with IRS. It was to do with.
It was to do the whole $1 million corporation Razor.
Yeah. And Razor won the first match, didn't he? So we have IRS win this match, and then the teams can carry on feuding on Raw. Yeah, no, you're right. We see an interview in the crowd with Owen and Bruce Hart. Now, this is one of the better moments of this SummerSlam, in what is a fairly weak SummerSlam, actually, but this is quite good. They say that Stu, Bret's dad, has just got out of hospital after Jerry Lawler attacked him outside of Raw. Bret comes out with Heenan describing him as a chicken, because he's been afraid to face the Lawler. Lawler comes out on crutches with an ice pack on his leg. And Vince says he hasn't heard of any injury in ring. Now, this is important. And it's great work, man. This is a great little story within SummerSlam. And it sort of carries on from what we've talked about at King of the Ring, which was awesome stuff as well. Jerry says that he hates Hart and the entire Hart family, including his wrinkly mother, which is very harsh. When he got off the plane, the car he got in, made in Michigan Motor City, ended up in a crash, insulting the local guys as well as the cars. He says he can beat Bret with one leg, but the doctors have told him he can't fight. So Jerry the King has got his self-appointed court jester, Doink, to fight in his place. Pretty neat, man. So we get Doink coming out, and that was a really good promo. It was, we knew what was going on. I mean, heels lie.
It's a proper
surprise.
I mean that's been replayed as well for years.
Of course it has, but it's a really good little story to tell before getting into the ring, and I really like the way that this plays into the next sort of two matches. So first up we have Bret Hart versus Joink. I nearly said Jerry Lawler,
Joink,
and then I turned it with Doink, and it turned out as Joink. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Doink the Clown. Doink comes out with a cigar in his mouth and two buckets, throws confetti onto the crowd from one bucket, and in the second bucket is water, which he throws on Bruce Hart.
Indeed, yeah.
Bruce Hart
wasn't aware.
Didn't know this was happening, man.
Yeah, he wasn't aware, was he?
That was funny, because he gets really angry and he sort of takes back the barricade. I was like, oh, he's doing a really good job of looking angry there. Yeah. Not until after I watched pay-per-view and doing a bit of research, I realised that was
it was a real reaction.
That was real anger.
Yeah, actually Owen knew he was going to do it, and he was like there's a thing where Owen had warned Doink that if he got it on him, he was going to pay for it.
Ah, right, so and that's why it just sends up on Bruce.
You'll see, it's a very good shot.
Very good. No, I didn't know that. That's hilarious. Bret attacks Doink whilst his jacket is still on his hands, tying them up. Doink sells Bret's attacks really well, but the problem with Doink at this point is he never feels like a threat to Bret Hart.
Yeah.
It's a bit like putting... Who's it like putting in? It's a bit like putting Chad Gable in a match against Braun Strowman.
Or more accurately, a sort of a... I'm trying to think of a Fandango in a match.
Chad
Gable, you might put up a decent fight.
But
Fandango would just be like... He'd dance for a
little bit,
and then he would get destroyed.
And that's the problem with Doink in this match.
It's sad as well because it's Matt. it's Osborne's.
It's a great showing.
Yeah, it's his final heel. The Doink character's final heel final heel run.
Yeah.
And Matt Osborne's fired after this.
He was
drug problems. Yes.
He was. Yes. Facts. For drugs problems.
Facts.
Never came back, did he?
Matt Bourne. Yeah.
Or did he come back to fight Heath Slater?
I'm thinking about Spider-Man.
Yes.
For some reason, Doink seems to remind me of the.
I think you can say Matt Bourne. I think he called himself Matt Bourne a lot.
Matt Bourne.
Anyway, Matt Osborne.
That is the Green Goblin. It's the Green Goblin, isn't it? The Green Goblin.
No,
somebody else. Osborne.
Harry Osborne.
Harry Osborne. Yeah.
Very good. Doink sells Bret's attacks. Doink climbs to the top turnbuckle to attack Bret, but Bret punches him, leaving Doink to hit his little dinks on top of the turnbuckle. See what I did there?
His little dinks.
His little dinks. Stink's about to show up soon in the pay-per-view. Not in this pay-per-view, but very soon. Bret confronts Lawler and Doink attacks from behind, throwing him against the steel steps. Doink wrenches Bret's legs across the turnbuckle. Doink looked good here. He just didn't feel like a threat to Bret. Is the problem. Doink gets Bret in a strange submission. It was a really weird submission. Where he sort of like... Is that what it's called?
Puller, he pulls... it's like a...
He sat on his shoulders when he was sat.
The leg, stump puller.
Stump puller. Was that his finisher?
It was his. It's a
signature.
It's his signature. Yeah, it's kind of like his signature move.
Cool. It's a weird move. It doesn't look like it hurts, does it?
Just at a moment where I'm like, what is Dink doing now?
What is Dink doing now?
I wonder what Dink's doing now.
He owns a strip club. I made that up. Doink dances on top of the turnbuckle before diving into Bret's knees, hitting these little dinks again.
He hasn't really done much since...
Gutted.
1997. It made an appearance in WCW in 1997, but that was it.
Very good. At this point, Bret gets Doink into a sharpshooter, but Lawler breaks it up with his crutch. All of the Harts want to get into the ring to stop what's going, but officials stop them. And Jerry helps Doink to the back before being confronted by Jack Tunney. He tells him if he's not hurt, then the advertised match will go on. And if it doesn't get in the ring, Jerry Lawler will be banned for good. Bret beats Jerry back into the ring at this point, which is really cool.
I just want to start singing, "You'll be banned, you'll be banned, you'll be banned."
I don't know
good.
that song.
It's a thing, isn't it? Is it Boyzone?
Back for good, not banned for good.
I know, but...
I see what you did. I like it. Want you banned? I want you banned. I want you banned for good.
Sorry, carry on. Where's I'm waiting for the crutch bit.
Yeah, he's already done this. He's hit him.
So
he's broke
good.
up the pin.
I love the crutch bit.
Because he hit him quite hard as well.
Indeed, yes. Indeed.
We'll get into that in a bit.
Right.
Bret beats Jerry back into the ring from the top of the ramp. I really like that, actually. It showed Hart's dominance and wanting to get on the fight with Lawler. There was one like really stiff looking bucket shot. You know the buckets that Doink had brought in. He like proper twatted Jerry Lawler over the head with it as he was getting into it. I quite liked it. Bret bites the top of Lawler's head.
I think there was a lot. There was a lot of times where Bret Hart and Jerry Lawler didn't always see eye to eye.
Bret Hart was a weird heel face, though, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Just
not a very
feel. Should we call him?
What did somebody did? Oh, it was somebody, another popular YouTuber. Wrestling commentator on YouTube referred to him as was it wrestling's real life grumpy cat. I like that.
I don't know, mate. That's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it was that feel thing. I'm going to start calling it feel. It's a cross between a face and a heel. A feel, or a haze. What would you prefer?
A feel.
A feel.
I prefer a feel.
You prefer a feel as opposed to a haze. Let's carry on. King chucks Bret with his crutches. It looks really aggressive, actually, outside of the ring. He was attacking him in blatant sight of the ref as well, but the ref does nothing, and then, or feel. Feel, perhaps.
Right, we used to say this in the 80s, in previous episodes, 80s heels could just do...
whatever they want,
80s faces could do whatever they want, even if it was a heel thing. It looks to have continued into the 90s.
It certainly did. I think it continues for a long time. A sitting pile driver and an axe handle off the top rope lead into the sharpshooter. The bell rings. Bret Hart has won, but he doesn't release the sharpshooter. Now, it goes on for ages, and refs can't separate the two. Bret was angry at Lawler for a legitimate injury that happened during King of the Ring.
Indeed.
So although the segment was probably planned, he put a lot of pressure on Lawler's legs, knowing that he was to the point where he even struggled to walk when he got backstage.
Yes, that's true.
Good moment though.
The hitman.
It's a good moment. I like the whole thing of the refs telling him to come off. It builds up a lot of heat to the feud, and we see this feud carry on for a while. And I think that the storyline to all, I don't think the matches are great, but I think the storyline to all this is really interesting. Owen and Bruce Hart come in. Owen wearing a fancy pair of leather pants with cream cowboy boots. Have you ever owned leather pants?
Yes, I have.
You're a bad goth, of course you have. I've had leather pants before.
Yeah,
so.
Of course, we've seen each other in leather pants.
Yeah, we have. Will you ever wear cream cowboy boots with?
No, I would not. But at least it's better than his rocket.
Yes, it is. Yes, he's had an upgrade in wardrobe from the Mr. Motivator. Yeah.
Wow.
The ref has reversed the decision because Bret wouldn't let go of Jerry at all, and he is now undisputed king of the World Wrestling Federation. Yay! This should carry on. We get a couple of kiss my feet matches
with the introduction of.
It's fun. But it was entertaining,
the dentist.
Isaac Yankum.
Jerry Lawler's personal dentist.
Now, is that at the next SummerSlam? Is that sort of a...
It's coming up, isn't it?
I wonder if it is the next SummerSlam.
Their feud goes
on for years. It does,
yeah.
Because you've also got Bret and Owen as well. Mm-hmm. So you've got sort of... Owen and Jerry were I'd say, Bret's biggest sort of... and Shawn Michaels, of course. But Shawn Michaels gets tied up with Razor for quite a while.
Indeed.
So, really interesting dynamic between a lot of them, to be honest with you. And they put on good matches and good stories. Great story throughout the match, from Jerry Lyon to the involvement of the Hart family. which would lead to great storylines. Next match, Ludwig Borga versus Marty Jannetty. Would you like to hear a little bit about Ludwig Borga?
You know what? I really, really would.
Cool. I'm going to tell you a bit about him.
He looked like a bad bum.
He did, didn't he, man? He looked like that sort of Russian with the... He looked like the dude from Rocky 3.
Yeah, he looked like... They've had a couple of these WWE over the years. Like Heidenreich when they had him, when they brought him in. These bad bottoms.
Yep.
Sorry, you two. These bad bottoms that come in looking like a million
bucks, yeah.
And they look like they could tear you limb from limb. Yeah. Knock 50 shades of poop out of you.
Yes.
And they just don't really do much.
Well, there's some...
Who was the guy from prison? The guy was supposed to come from an Australian prison.
Not Nails.
No, there was another guy. And he was meant to...
So, Ludwig Borga, this is quite interesting. So, although he trained as a professional wrestler with Vern Gagne, he was popular...
Nathan Jones. That was the guy.
Who's that?
The guy that came from prison. He was supposed
I don't know.
Nathan Jones went from Australia's... apparently he was in the new Mad Max recently.
Cool.
Yeah, he was... very short run, but he was supposed to be from Australia. He was definitely
and he
from
looked
Australia,
similar to Ludwig
and he was
Borga.
supposed to be supposed to be in prison. And he comes out of prison and goes straight to the WWE because wrestling.
Because that's where we send all prisoners. So he had trained as a professional wrestler under Vern Gagne, but he was also a popular character on a Finnish version of The Gladiators.
There you
Do you remember the 90s show The Gladiators?
I do. I love Wolf.
Do you love Wolf? Yes. I love Jet. Do you, who's now working as a psychologist, do you want to give us a bit of a song from the theme tune of Gladiators?
No, I don't. I can't remember.
Do you feel the power of the gladiators?
I remember that bit.
Do you feel the might and the shame or something? Do you have the... That's enough. You do... No?
No.
I was hoping you'd join in with me at some point, but no, apparently not. I thought if I started, you'll finish it off.
I remember hearing gladiators, but that's about
it. Cool. And the escalator that I had to go up.
Oh, yeah.
Not escalator, travelator.
Yeah, the travelator. I just remember the sticks.
The sticks, yeah.
You know, when they're like...
knocking people out with the sticks.
Yeah, off the things.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, yeah. And the rings, gladiators, man. Reminiscing about gladiators, that's what you join us for.
They don't make them like that anymore, do they, Anthony?
What was the Geordie ref as well, wasn't it? Oh, yeah. Gladiators, ready!
No, Scottish Geordie.
Yeah.
Gladiators! That's not Scottish, is it?
No, it's not, no.
Gladiators! Gladiators! No, it's Johnny. Ready!
Yeah, he had success in New Japan and joined the WWF in 1993. Borga was the man who defeated Tatanka Streak. Bit of a shame there. Like, they'd built up to Tatanka Streak, although it was one of these weird streaks where they had a lot of iffy finishes.
Yes, indeed.
Like, if they'd done that with Asuka Streak, people would have... In today's internet age, people would have been complaining because you need if a streak is a streak.
It needs to be, yeah.
I think people were pointing at one match where Asuka was in the Fatal 4-Way and didn't win or something in NXT or something like that, and people were like, well, it's not really a streak because of this one. Like, if they'd done this in these days, geez Louise, you know.
Tatanka versus Brock Lesnar, that would have been a fitting end to this.
Oh, fantastic. Unfortunately, though, and this is sort of the problem, so they'd give him to Tatanka Street. They had all these massive plans for him, but he suffered an ankle injury in a match against Rick Steiner, which forced WWF to cancel a lot of the plans for him. So they had him appearing in the Royal Rumble. They had a WrestleMania match set up for him at WrestleMania 10 with Earthquake. And all of that sort of gets cancelled because of the ankle injury. He eventually went into politics, representing, because he's Finnish, it's called the True Finns Party.
There you go.
We are true Finns. And then after a battle with drugs, he killed himself. Good.
Wow.
Yeah. A video package of Ludwig. He's in a really dirty-looking back alley, saying this is the real America, and this building crumbling is much like the American dream. I thought there was some clever writing on this. I had a little problem with it. It felt like there was too much writing in it. It felt like there was too many ideas, so the camera would pan up when he'd point at the American flag. And he looked a little bit like he was going from point to point to point because he knew he had to hit these spots. Yeah, he just didn't have the flow at this point, which is a bit sad. He was from Helsinki, Finland, so comes down Ludwig Borga. And he looked like the Russian
I've just seen your notes, and you got him down as Borga.
I've got him what, sorry?
Down as Borga.
Have I? Where's he down as Borga?
Borga throws Jannetty.
Yes, he does. Maybe I'll even say Borga instead of Borga when we get to it. But if you don't point it out, you might be able to laugh when I do.
I lolled.
Good. This match, it's a basic squash match. It's sad to see Jannetty in this move to move. Jannetty did a good job of selling it, but that's all it is, a squash match. And it's a slow squash match. Mm-hmm. Too long for a squash match. My squash matches are 30 seconds and that's done. Borga... or Borga throws Jannetty in the air and uppercuts him in the air, and that's what it mainly is. It's mainly punches and clothesline though. They don't actually sell him as this sort of monster with big moves. It was nothing that you couldn't have done on Raw, really, is my problem with it here.
We spoke about this before the podcast. I said some of these matches were very Raw matches that could have happened on Raw, and they weren't really SummerSlam worthy.
No, not at all, no. And that's why it's a semi-week SummerSlam, I think, because a lot of these are Raw stories.
Yes, indeed.
Ludwig's no-sells everything, including 2 super kicks that he no-sells. Ludwig wins with a torture rack. It wasn't even a good squash match. A rest in peace match. Next.
Yes, Giant Gonzales. Although I love the clothesline that finishes this.
Do you? Yeah, it's all right. Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Yeah.
It's good.
Better than the chlorophyll.
Better than the chlorophyll. Yes, yes indeed.
Harvey Whippleman still has the urn of the Undertaker, and there's no Paul Bearer with the Undertaker at the start of this match, which is important to the finish. From the start, Undertaker chops the chin of Gonzales, and his facial expressions make him look like Sloth.
Do him again.
Do you know Sloth from the Goonies?
Do him again. No, I know it. Like, do you? Because you did him. It was great. Yeah. That's his Giant Gonzales.
That's my Giant Gonzales.
I've seen his Giant Gonzales.
Have you seen my Giant Gonzales? Have you seen my Giant Gonzales? Is that the first when you saw my Giant Gonzales?
Yeah, that's like the ring. You know, like the ring when you see the
yeah.
As soon as you see your GiantGonzales, it's like,
oh, right, you end up in that expression.
You freeze.
Wow, cool, man. Cool. I'm glad you come up with this in your head.
People tell you not to look, was it to make funny faces in the wind when you're a kid?
Yeah, because it'll stick like that.
That's what happens when you see Giant Gonzales.
Yeah.
Your Giant Gonzales.
Thank you. When did the wind blow for your face to get it stuck like that?
I don't know, mate, but at least I don't have that ridiculous hamster chin.
This is a choice, that isn't.
well, actually, this is a choice. It's a beautiful one at that. You flipping hamster-faced muppet.
I'm glad this Gonzales match has just turned into us insulting each other. Gonzales attacks Undertaker with a chair at the start of the match. Undertaker reaches for the end, but Whippleman takes it away. Wow, it's just rubbish, man. Nothing happens in here. You think they might have learned and come up with something after WrestleMania 9.
It's just Giant Gonzales, to be fair.
Yeah, man.
It's about as...
but I also think Undertaker could have done something a bit more interesting.
As terrible as your own Giant Gonzales.
Thank you very much, dear.
Very boring and...
I've had many compliments about my Giant Gonzales. Thank you very much. Yeah, especially when chlorophyll's being involved. The bells toll halfway through the match, and Paul Bearer comes down with a black wreath. My God, he's alive. Heenan cries. That's what he says. My God, he's alive. It's cool. Whippleman goes to clothesline Bearer, but Bearer clotheslines him with the end. It's a bit sloppy, but two managers attacking each other. That's cool. The Undertaker continues to get dominated in the ring, though. The Undertaker gets up and Undertaker keeps clotheslining Gonzales. A clothesline from the top ropes gets Undertaker the win. Win. Thank God that was over, man.
Yeah,
that was rough.
One of the weakest Undertaker matches I have seen.
It's not as bad as the WrestleMania 9 match for the simple fact of the sort of managers getting involved a little bit. Mm-hmm. But it's poor.
It's great.
It's poor. After the match, Gonzales chokeslams Whippleman.
Face turn.
Yeah, it was the weakest chokeslam ever, man.
Yeah.
It was like, because do you remember I said like the best part of his WrestleMania 9 match was when he was holding up El Ebner after the match? He did a chokeslam to El. Well, this was just like, it was a really rubbish clothesline. Mm-hmm. Dom, question. can you think of a worst wrestler in WWE history who has been pay-per-view level?
Did Mantar ever have a WWE?
Yes, I think he did.
Mantar.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to find out.
Was he a worse wrestler than Giant Gonzales?
Yes, I actually really liked some of Giant Gonzales. Just looking at him.
Yeah, I mean that was a weird gimmick, but I mean, was he as bad a wrestler as?
Oh, he had diabetes.
Very good. Don't you feel bad now?
He was in ECW for a bit. That's great.
Well, yeah, I can't think of a worse wrestler. Maybe we will get to one.
Mantar is a worse wrestler. The Great Khali is a worse wrestler.
No. Giant Gonzales is worse than the Great Khali for sure. Yeah, I mean the match was rubbish. It was only slightly better because there was no chloroform. There was no tombstone, man. I've missed Undertaker's tombstone.
Yeah.
Which is disappointing, but I understand it's due to the giant size. That it wouldn't have been possible. I was looking at Facebook the other night, and WWE/WWF/WCW 80s and 90s, when pro wrestling was great. What an epic title for a Facebook group. Mm-hmm. It lets you know everything that's going to be on it. And they had a great image on the Facebook ID this week, and it had 9 photos of your favourite finisher, and you had to choose which one was your favourite finisher. I chose the tombstone because I love the tombstone, but I also quite like a turnbuckle move, like the Eclipse or Swanton Bomb.
From this day and age, I would have said.
Well, from any
I enjoy Sister Abigail.
Is that your favourite finisher of all time, Sister Abigail? Is it because you like to see wrestlers kiss on the sweaty foreheads?
Obviously. No, my favourite finisher of all time. I love a good super kick.
Really?
Love a good super kick.
Who does a better super kick, Shawn Michaels or Dolph Ziggler?
Dolph Ziggler. I'm really kidding. No, there was a guy, British wrestler actually. He popularised it in the WWE, and I think they banned it afterwards. I'm trying to remember. Paul, what's his name? He had a pirate gimmick.
What? He had a good finisher. Yeah,
it was like a flip. And you flip from front to back. Paul Burchill. Yeah, and he had what was his finisher?
Paul Burchill.
C4 it's called.
The C4.
The C4, and you're here. You get him in like a rock bottom and flip.
Oh, backwards.
Both you and the guy backwards.
All right, well, obviously that relies on the guy.
Flip rock bottom. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Pretty cool.
Cool. Is that your favourite finisher?
Probably one of them.
Cool.
I love the elbow drop.
So yeah, go check out that channel, WWE/WWF/WCW 80s and 90s, when pro wrestling was great. Really good stuff, man. Mm-hmm. I love wrestling Facebook groups, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and go check out our Facebook while you're there as well.
Yes, please do.
Yeah. Interview next with Yokozuna, who is now with Fuji and Jim Cornette. Cornette complains about the Heavenly Bodies being cheated by having a local ref in the ring. And so that's him making excuses for the match earlier on. Yokozuna had a great stare, and Cornette goes into explaining that about his soul inside or something like that. It's a great promo from Cornette, and I think the reason I put him with Yokozuna is because Fuji was great, and he sold but you couldn't always understand what he was saying, and Cornette was so sharp in delivering them promos. Yes. Very good. Next match, the Smoking Guns, Bart Gunn and Billy Gunn with Tatanka versus the Head Shrinkers with Bam Bam Bigelow and managers Afa and Luna Vachon. It feels like we're getting another match with Smoking Guns sort of tacked on here, like too much going on, too many tag teams going on. I think the setup for the match reads like it's Cowboys and Indians.
Yeah,
type thing.
Yeah, it's a little weird, isn't it?
Well, it was weird, isn't it? It is weird.
Yeah, I'm not.
Smoking Guns with Tatanka.
I can't get behind them.
So the faces run at the heels at the start, but it backfires as they all go down. Bam Bam and Tatanka start off, but both men go for a crossbody at the same time. Billy and Fatu get in the ring. Billy did a decent-looking bulldog from the top rope. Looks pretty sweet. Quick tags from the heel lead to a couple of power moves to Bart Gunn. It all feels way too slow though, and that's my problem with these sort of big matches. They go through the distracted ref routine. After all the storyline beats of the last few matches, this sort of feels like there's no beats in this. Tatanka gets in and everything speeds up a bit with chops to everyone and a slam to Bam Bam, which looked impressive. Tatanka slamming Bam Bam.
Yeah, Tatanka. He has his moments of looking really good,
and then he
looking really
tomahawks up.
Yes, he tomahawks up, which I do kind of love.
That's great. He gets a DDT on Bam Bam and a crossbody onto him to nearly get the pin. Tatanka Tommy hawks up at this point. But gets taken out by a dropkick from Bam Bam, and I didn't expect that, actually. It was quite neat.
Oh, yeah, there you go. There's a good dropkick from a big man.
Yes, Bam Bam.
We talked about this earlier. Bam
cool.
Bam, big man.
The heels get in, and after clearing out the Smoking Guns triple team Tatanka, all three headbutt Tatanka at the same time, because that's sort of all three of their gimmicks as well, the headbutts. And then all three get up to do the diving headbutt at the same time, but all three miss because he gets up. The Smoking Guns come back and help Tatanka get the roll-up pin on Fatu. I like the bit with the three headbutt jump thing, but apart from that, it was a bit of a...
Yeah, it was kind of a nothing match really, but I like I said, I liked Tatanka at this point, but he has some hit and miss stuff. Smoking Guns, they get better as they this
develop. Probably should have just been Tatanka and
it could have just been
Bam
Raw.
Bam.
This could have just been Raw too.
Yeah, it could have been.
I think Tatanka and Bam Bam do have some. Actually, they're part of the $1 Million Corporation together.
Yes, they were.
They're a tag team as well.
Yeah,
for a bit.
Yeah. Wow. But I think that this match could have just been them two. It would have been more interesting. Yeah. So next up, we get an interview with the driver from the Lex Express. Talks about Lex visiting children in hospital and blah 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 blah. And he did. He genuinely toured the Lex Express to.
Yeah, he's a good man. He's probably got some very good memories.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he is. I've got.
I would never have made him.
I would
never have made him world champion because he just didn't have the character.
They were just trying to fill in Hogan.
Didn't have the character. Yeah.
But actually, I think wrestling fans were ready to move on from Hogan. Mm-hmm. We was ready to accept Bret Hart as a champion.
Yes.
And after all the great work that he's done, SummerSlam '92, last King of the Ring, we don't need that American. Yeah, anymore.
Agreed.
There isn't any big American, like, pro-American faces anymore, is there?
Not right now.
No.
The last one was Kevin Owens, and he's not. I know he's not.
Yeah,
American.
he's not a face, and he's not American.
I'm just trying to say he's not American,
yeah,
but he had the US.
Yeah,
title.
yeah. That was great, clever. He never really played out though, did it? Unfortunately. Yeah, an interview with a member of the audience who is wearing red, white, and a blue pillowcase. Mm-hmm. The US chants have already begun. Yay. Finkel asks the crowd to rise, which they all do, and then he asks for respect as someone sings the Japanese national anthem really badly. No respect is shown. These filthy Michigan Americans. How many, whatever. Yeah, they're all booing along to someone singing a Japanese national anthem. And then we get the Master of Ceremonies out. Macho Man comes out. Did I say Macho Man didn't? Macho Man didn't have a match in this. Macho Man's here, yeah. He looked awesome, man. Instead of it just being like a really corny Stars and Stripes outfit he had on, it was like a red leopard print with blue stars. It looked really neat. Yeah. I want one to get married in. If I was getting married, I'd wear a Macho Man outfit.
Cool, man.
Awesome.
Nah, I'd be down with that. But I'd probably invest, as someone that would hopefully be there in some capacity. I would invest in a outfit for you.
Would you? You can be my best man, and you can come dressed as a wrestler as well, my friend.
I knew it.
You can come dressed as Bastion Booger. So
I'd make a good Bastion Booger.
You would. So Macho Man comes out. He looks.
Do you he was on the Big Breakfast? Do you remember the Big Breakfast?
Yes.
Bastion Booger was on the Big Breakfast, like eating
really?
Food, just eating food, just eating.
Cool.
And he was just. They were like. Because he was all greasy.
Yeah, and he could just eat. Yeah. Cool.
Chicken.
So Macho Man looks amazing. He was also accompanied by singer Aaron Neville. Weird, man. Weird voice. All the people were waving American flags to pomp and circumstance. Doom, 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 doom. Hang on. That's a British song.
What?
Pomp and Circumstance is a very British song.
Is it?
Yeah, man. It was written by Edward Elgar, who was a British composer. Pomp and Circumstance. It's very British. And there was all waving the little American quintessential British. Yes. It's like afternoon tea is Pomp and Circumstance.
Tea and scones, man.
Yeah, man.
We should have that on the podcast.
We should do that. We should have tea and scones on the podcast.
At some point.
We will do. Aaron sings American the Beautiful, doing this really weird.
Probably not.
It wasn't as good as my Gladiator singing earlier, is all I'm going to say. So the match. Hey, we're there.
It's as good
Main
as
event.
anything Luger's done before or since.
It's weird.
It's not great.
Lex Luger versus Yokozuna with Jim Cornette and Mr. Fuji. Sign in the crowd saying Yoko Tuna.
Let him have it.
I don't get it.
Let him have it. You don't have to get it.
I get it.
Silly.
I don't get it. What is it? Tell it. Was it a half fish?
It's just silly.
Oh, it's silly. Okay.
Suspend your disbelief, Anthony. This is
Yoko
terrible.
Tuna.
That's amazing. I'd chant that.
Would you?
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, they could. Well, they could have branded that.
They could have branded that.
Yeah.
Yoko Tuna T-shirts for everyone.
At the back in the day, they could have. Well,
Oh, and they could have like described his Banzai drop as a tea bag. And there's something about smell and
Fish.
Banzai drop and fish going on there. Let's not even go into that.
The fish flop.
The fish flop instead of the belly to belly.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good, very good. Yoko Tuna. Good work. Savage does
The next the next gay T-shirt will have Yoko Tuna.
Yoko Tuna.
Do it.
Savage did a great job of building up Lex Luger, to be honest, introducing the next World Wrestling Federation champion, Lex Luger.
All a bit premature.
Lex has had no pay-per-view match as of yet where he's sort of shown off anything great in the WWF, in my opinion. Would you agree?
I agree.
So I think it was weird to go with him. I don't understand why they didn't go with, Hart's obvious.
Yeah, they could.
But even Perfect, could have gone with Perfect for it.
Vince was always, he has his quintessence, he has his type.
He wants his muscle
He has
men.
his type,
But then there's a steroid trial going on at the minute, so why not take a step back from that and,
Well, they have been taking a step back from that in recent
Absolutely, yeah.
With DiBiase.
Oh, sorry, no, I'm on about... no, steroids, not concussion.
No, I mean they're taking a step back from the beefy.
Oh yeah, but I mean this, yeah, and I think they have done quite a lot, yeah, especially with Daniel Bryan. But yeah, and I get what you're saying.
They're returning to that now.
Yes, more it's sports entertainment, wrestlers entertainment. Yeah, Fuji sneaks up on the apron, but Luger catches him, and before Yokozuna can take advantage, he goes after him. Yeah, big pop for Lex Luger at the beginning. Lex Express, woo! Yoko Tuna.
Would you have ridden the Lex Express?
Would I? No, I wouldn't. Yoko Tuna goes for the early leg drop, but Luger rolls away. Fuji goes with the salt again, but Lex blocks it, and Lex blocks it, and the salt goes over his head. Yeah. The two fight on the outside with Yokozuna choking Luger with some ropes.
Yeah.
Yokozuna dominates the part of the match until he misses a chair shot on Luger. Luger hits two axe handles on Yokozuna and then goes for a forearm smash. He's got a wrench in his forearm, that man.
The old plate in the forearm.
Yeah, tell him off. But he's wearing Stars and Stripes padding on it now. So he's not the heel that's going to cheat with his metal arms.
Indeed.
As Cornette distracts the ref, Yokozuna gets a bucket from Fuji and uses it to hit Luger. The crowd were pretty into the match, I'd have to say at this point. Pretty amazing how quickly they were able to turn Lex face.
Yeah, I seem to remember, fantastic. Maybe I'm getting this wrong, but I seem to remember Yoko doing a flipping spin in midair when he takes the elbow at some point in his career. I think he spins in midair. Really? When he takes
it's a big guy to spin. I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean, like a couple of, I'm convinced that happens at some point when Luger gets the forearm. But
in this one he just sort of stands there a bit and rocks back and forth. Yokozuna does an amazing belly to belly to Lex, as Vince says that should do it, but he only gets a 2 count. It was built up quite well. Luger does a good job of selling the defeated man as Yokozuna continues to dominate him. Luger battles out of a headlock, and when he goes to slam him, Yoko ends up falling on top of him. One of the weird things about this match, because they show it at the end of the pay-per-view, but they don't show it at any point before this match. Why didn't they show the slam on the ship? Because that's such an iconic image.
Oh, massively, yeah.
But they haven't even mentioned it, I don't think, in the pay-per-view. Maybe the commentators mentioned it briefly, but that's it. It's an iconic image that they should have shown, before just the thing. The whole story of the match is sort of Luger constantly kicking out of Yokozuna, and it's okay. It's not bad. It's the guy that won't be defeated.
Building him up as a hero.
I won't stop fighting.
As a hero that wants to fight.
It works okay. Yokozuna goes for the super teabag, also known as the Banzai drop, but Luger moves out of the way.
The fish flop.
The fish fluff. Yokozuna. Luger eventually gets a sort of slam on Yokozuna, but it's not a full slam, it's sort of a half slam. It's a bit weird. Before clotheslining Yokozuna out of the ring, the ref counts to 10, and Yokozuna is disqualified. Now, this is where it all starts to get a little bit weird. So, Luger spends his time in the ring attacking Fuji and Cornette. Yokozuna's out for the count, and Lex Luger has won, but he hasn't won the belt, right?
Yeah, and then of course everybody gets in the ring.
The Steiner brothers come out, hometown crowd.
Like he has won the title. It's
put him on his shoulders.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It was wonderful, except for the fact that he hasn't
balloons fall.
Won anything.
Macho Man comes in.
It's crazy.
Yay.
It's crazy. What the
They do this a couple of times in this time. They do it exactly the same thing in WrestleMania 10.
Didn't even win.
Didn't even win. No, he did win.
We did win.
He won by, but he didn't really win.
If you have the belt, then you do the.
Yeah, I wonder if it was a late decision to swap it over.
That's my shoulders, on the shoulders thing.
It's good. It looked like you had Lex Luger on your shoulders for a second. Thanks. Oh, hello, Lex.
The total package.
The total package on your head. It's just weird, man. Yeah. It's a really weird moment. And then it dissolves into even more weirdness, where we sort of get this promo of a song, America, America, do it for America. It's like a 90s bad rock ballad, is what it is.
Everything Hulk Hogan style.
Oh, man, and you see Mount Rushmore, and you see Martin Luther King.
Hulk Hogan's gone, but not forgotten.
Yeah.
His tedious...
His legacy will live on.
Over the top,
at the start of it, you've got like this silhouette of the Lex Express coming up slowly. It's just a 4-minute song. It's so weird, man. But you know,
imagine
whatever.
Vince just in the back.
I was laughing.
We have to save this. We have to save this. Put some American stuff on. Put some American on the TV.
But why not have him?
Whether he wins or loses.
Yeah. Because I imagine, with the whole balloon setup and stuff, I imagined he'd intended him to win initially.
Yeah.
What do you think? Yeah, then there's images of Lex sat chilling on his bus. Weird. Lex with children at the hospital. Yay. So we've gone from, like, the narcissist John Cena to, like... the narcissist Lex Luger to this super good guy... New generation John Cena type character. It's just a bit mental. And all of this celebration is for a guy that didn't win the title. Yokozuna's still knocked out at ringside after the awful package. Then there's an interview with Lex backstage. It was an honour and a privilege to fight for America.
Except you didn't win the belt.
Weird, isn't it, man?
I've never seen... Yeah, it's weird. I've never seen anything quite like that again. You just kind of leave it.
Best match. I think there's 2 contenders for this. I'd probably say the Steiners and the Heavenly Bodies, or Bret Hart and the Lawler and Doink. But it's not really a good match. It's just good story, innit?
Yeah, it's weird. Let me... maybe if I had to pick one, and it's a very difficult one, I'd go for the Bret Hart match.
Would you? I'd go for the Steiners. I thought for the amount of time that they had, they got a lot rammed into that, and I thought it was good. They all impressed me.
Did you just let one go?
I let one go at the end of the podcast.
On camera.
How many... the microphone didn't pick it up until you made it blatantly obvious. I actually rocked this way to lean it away from you slightly.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome, dude. That's love, man.
I'll just finish the podcast like this.
Speaking to your microphone, boy.
Boy.
How many stars do you give this? How many gay stars?
2. 2 gay stars. Yeah,
very good.
Not a fan.
I think 2 was a bit of a junk pay-per-view.
2.
Best performer? This is becoming a running theme for me, actually.
Really, I probably should give it to Luger, but I'm not going to, even though because everybody else bloody gave it to
America.
Luger. Flip, yeah.
I'd go Bret Hart, man.
Bret Hart, yeah, Bret Hart, I think.
And that's becoming a real running theme in these, actually. Bret Hart is sort of stealing every show.
And it's the same for the next bloody decade.
Yes, well, yes. Yeah, interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us.
Cheers.
If you've enjoyed it, we don't have any questions today, dude.
Well, actually, I have one from earlier off camera. That's not. Yeah, there's an establishment in our hometown of Hull called Thieving Harry's, which is down the road from where we film. They're very interested.
Thieving Harry's is good food, man.
They're very interested in wrestling, and they do know about Gimme a Hull Yeah Wrestling podcast because
awesome.
they recognised me today as I walked in.
That was cool.
As a guy, he was like, you'll know what happened on Raw. Because that's what they were like, you'll know what happened on Raw, won't you? That's as soon as they said. And because I watch wrestling every week, religiously, pretty much. And they were like, give me a whole year wrestling. And I was like, yes, that's us. And they asked me to ask you to tell everybody else in question, what are the plans for the future? What do we want to achieve? Are we going to have? Is it potential that we could have? Because people keep saying to us they want to come on board. They keep saying to us they want to get involved. So the question is not a wrestling related one, but it's about the future of the podcast. What do we have plans for the future of the podcast?
I don't know. I mean, I want to carry on this series because I enjoy this series, doing it for ourselves and sort of, whether people are enjoying it or
doing
not.
It for ourselves.
Yeah, very good. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy watching the pay-per-views.
I enjoy doing it with you.
And I'm looking forward to the times when the pay-per-views get slightly more better produced, I think, and there's sort of a little bit less research that needs to go into them.
Yeah. Not that we're lazy, but
it's a lot of work to do all the research and stuff.
We work really hard.
In terms of other people, we have someone that maybe, but we'll sort of announce that in the future.
Yeah. We will open it up potentially if the opportunity is there to other people from Hull and the surrounding areas to come on board for us. Particularly for prediction videos would be the best thing to do. Like things we can do live.
But
on
we're
our
always
Facebook.
interested to hear your opinions, and if you want to send us a video for us, we'll quite happily post it on our Facebook page or and share it out there. If you guys want to do a prediction video, it'd be great to hear you, man.
It's all about collaboration.
Yeah,
we want to support people. Make sure you give us a plug, of course, just because it'd be nice to have your support.
Absolutely.
On the gay brand. So yeah, if you send us a video of anything you've got, and don't forget to tell us how much you love Give Me a Hull Yeah, if indeed you do. And find us on Patreon, Twitter, Facebook. I was going to say MySpace, bloody hell.
Wow.
MySpace. No, we're not on MySpace. Facebook, Twitter, Patreon / Give Me a Hull Yeah. Just Google us, find us, enjoy us, fax us. What? Okay, anyway, whatever you choose to do, keep it gay.